going live in 3. All right, so think on the one hand how many media companies you actually still trust. One of the ones on my list is actually The Hedge, right? The way that they do their actual articles, a lot of them anonymous by, Tyler Durden. I actually do trust them. And in the last week, they have said a ton about this. There is so much more than this that really in the last week and a half that shows us that the conflict that we all thought was coming, at least in our community, is here. It's definitely very, very close to the worst it could ever get. And again, that doesn't mean panic, but it does mean prepare. As far as this goes, Hedge is writing again, probably 5 things in the last week. If everything is going to be okay, why are the U.S. and the EU feverishly preparing for World War III? Again, we are being told by media that everything is okay, that peace is on its way, that we're going to have these peace deals. But yet, there's so much to contradict this. There has been a huge event that happened over the weekend. Again, we don't know how huge or how small it was because nothing has been said by Russia. But one of the motorcade cars, an Urus Senat, very, very expensive car. Basically, it's a elongated regular car that the president has rode in himself, that others have rode in. There's quite a few of them in his motorcade. It's what all of the big politicians in Russia get when they travel with the motorcade. It's a very, very, very crazy mini limousine, right? That blew up blocks away from FSB in the same neighborhood that some of the most prominent, powerful people actually live. Kind of similar to the Washington, D.C. Within a certain few blocks of this one neighborhood, you've got all of our bigwigs that have a house there. So in this neighborhood, this thing blew up in front of a nightclub. And people go, oh, well, that couldn't be this. And the civilians could never get close to the presidential car. Well, we've heard that the presidential car, the president has been traveling by night, that he's been doing a lot of crazy stuff to make it, that him not stick out. Maybe he was wearing civilian clothes disguised and he's got, his FSB in civilian clothes. We don't know. Either way, I think that most likely we will find out that that car was empty or that it wasn't, or somebody else in the actual Russian government just got taken out and there's a cover-up, or it was just an explosion, right? Either way, it was made to look like this because, look, we just had Zelensky said that he was going to take, I shouldn't say that. Zelensky said that the, president of Russia would perish very soon and said that is a fact. It was a super off-color comment. It was just like, what the heck? Where is this coming from? 2 days later, you have a presidential motorcade car blow up. All of the headlines say, oh, fears of attempt on his life. Well, there's always fears of that. But was it an actual attempt? That's the big deal here. Now, there's so much more than this. That was just the weekend event. And again, I think that it depending on how that ended up happening, that could have been very well the official start. And we won't know it until it's in history books. The U.S. has significantly increased its military presence in the Gulf and Indian Ocean, deploying B-2 stealth bombers, cargo planes, and aero refueling tankers, alongside key assets like the USS Carl Vinson and the USS Harry S. Truman aircraft carriers. Again, they wrote how they're concerned about the deployment of highly advanced B-2 stealth bombers to the region is being reported that at least 5 B-2 stealth bombers have been deployed. That is a third of our actual fleet. The U.S. military has sent at least 5 B-2 stealth bombers to the highly strategic island of Diego Garcia. We just talked about this on Marfoogle News, our short right before this, that there's talk in the Iranian ranks that they should do a preemptive strike on Diego Garcia. Diego Garcia being an island very strategic to attacking the Middle East. If you want to attack China, you would go to Guam or some other island, Hawaii. If you want to go and attack the Middle East, you would park your stuff over at Diego Garcia. There's been a lot of buzz around Diego Garcia, and now they're talking about even striking it. You've got our fleet there. Those heavy bombers can obliterate targets with their huge 25-ton bomb payload per jet. This means U.S.'s deadly fleet of 5 could carry an astounding 125 tons of explosives. It is being speculated that these B-2 bombers could be involved in an ongoing campaign to take out the Houthis in Yemen, but it is important to note that these B-2 bombers would also be ideal for carrying out the sort of bunker buster strikes that would be necessary to take out Iran's nuclear program. Now, that sits on the back burner. Again, we do know that our president has recently delivered a letter to the Iranians that gives them a choice with a very clear deadline. Either Iranians must make an agreement to end the nuclear program within 2 months, or they will be attacked. Recently, President Trump revealed that he had sent a letter to Tehran, of course, demanding this new nuclear deal. The Iranians have already told us that they have no plans to negotiate, so it appears it's just a matter of time before a second option is implemented. In a recent interview with Face the Nation, National Security Advisor Mike Waltz, and I just want to remind people, that's the same Mike Waltz that possibly started that Signal group, and I personally think maybe you should look at him, that, you know, they all got in trouble for doing Yemen bombing plans in a Signal group. Made it clear that there will be no compromises. Iran has to give up its program in a way that the entire world can see. Mike Waltz, Trump's national security advisor, said during a separate interview on Face the Nation, it is time for Iran to walk away completely from its desire to have nuclear weapon, and they will not and cannot be allowed to have nuclear weapons program. That is its weaponization and strategic missile program. This is also one of the goals of Israel's as well, so they are working hand in hand. So meanwhile, we are stepping away from Ukraine. Essentially, we're stepping right into another one. Again, do EU bureaucrats know something that the rest of us do not? Sadly, it appears that even the very limited agreements that Russia and Ukraine just agreed to are not going to hold. Again, that weekend event probably pulls into this. Ukrainians just launched more strikes against Russian energy infrastructure, and the Russians keep sending waves of drones attacks at Ukrainian cities. Overnight, Russia said it had taken down 9 drones, including 2 over the Black Sea. Ukraine's military reported 117 Russian drone attacks overnight. So yeah, there's no peace there. And then hopefully both sides come to their senses. And again, is he expecting, this is important, ominously, we are being told that U.S. soldiers were just found perished near Lithuania's border. And I pointed this out last week when this happened. It's like, what the hell actually happened here? They say they were on a training exercise in some sort of vehicle thing. That's believable. And again, most cover-up stories are like, oh, they were all in a car. They might have gotten in a car accident. They might have flipped and rolled or something, right? But this is on the Lithuanian border, the NATO doorstep. So, things could have already popped off. And here's why I think some of this may actually be happening. I'll tell you here in just a second. We'll be right back right after this. Nothing in this show should be considered legal, medical, or financial advice. The views of the callers can differ considerably and do not necessarily reflect my opinion, Dex's opinion, or anyone else who works with the show. You should always do your own research and consult with professionals. The internet is full of fake news, so please take everything with a grain of salt. If you have not already, it helps us out if you end up going through any of our affiliates, and it helps you out if you end up protecting yourself against cybercrime. NordVPN is one of the best and one of the easiest to use. If you do not have a virtual private network, it protects your IP address, which is your online identity, which actually connects to your real address and everything else. It also connects to you. If you know anything about how they are data logging and basically getting your profiles down, you can prevent that by having a VPN. Nord is, again, one of the easiest. Download it. It's like an on switch and off switch. All you have to do. Go to marfooglenews.com/VPN. Not only will you get a giant discount on this, but you will also be helping us. I appreciate your support, and I appreciate everyone that goes through any of our affiliates. Can't say thank you enough. All right, what is going on, guys? It is Adam, a.k.a. Marf, and this is Marfoogle TV. We have a lot to go over in a short amount of time, so we'll get right into it. But remember, every single article, tweet, video, picture, document that we're going to show you here today has a backup source and a bibliography over on our website over at marfooglenews.com. Over there, not only are you going to find that whole source list, you're also going to find any affiliate you might see during the show. We are completely and fiercely independent. We decide what kind of affiliates we have on here. There's nobody else deciding what rotation of products. I'm not going to show you a keto diet because somebody else told me to. Again, all of these things support us and only us. So thank you guys. We appreciate your support by sharing us out. With that being said, we're also up against a mountain of propaganda media, that's everywhere. 40,000 pages of all of the first results are going to be somebody else. Somebody else that's most likely been paid for by the U.S. Gov for the last, decade. So make sure to keep that in mind. Source list is done for every show, for a live show. It's again, something that past tomorrow, not too many people are even going to think about. But it is archivable, and you can go up and search it up in the upper right-hand corner. Thank you for the couple new members there. I'll get to supers here in a minute, but this is really important. So the way he writes it in this is a little hard to follow, but he talks about the NATO, right? NATO, good comment that he put in here. If anyone wants to miscalculate and think that they can get away with an attack on Poland or any other ally, they will be met with the full force of this fierce alliance. Our reaction will be devastating, he declared in Warsaw. This has to be a very clear message to Vladimir Putin or anyone else who wants to attack us. Now, that was General Mark Rutte, the new NATO Secretary General, right? It has been very clear that all of the Polish, government, the same ones that turned Warsaw into Mother Ukraine over the last 4 years, those same folks have been absolutely pushing that Russia is going to do this. Russia's going to do this. Russia's going to do this. They're preparing their people. All of the EU is preparing their people for a massive war. At the very least, it very well looks like Europe is going to this world war without us, right? Because we keep hearing our president is building up the walls, making a golden dome, putting, thousands and thousands of soldiers on the border. We're closing down shop, and we don't want to fund all of this stuff anymore. We're putting us first, right? That very well is a good thing in a lot of ways. But again, that's how the previous two wars actually went, World War I and II, until we got pulled in by an event that no president could avoid. Or no president knew about some three-letter agency was planning, right? Like Pearl Harbor pulled us in immediately. From that day on, it was the day that went on infamy, right? So with this being said, there are a lot of big events, and they're not even small, big events that have happened in the last 2 weeks that say that we were absolutely right. This isn't an I told you so. This is oh crap, we're right. Because right now, there is so much happening, and half of it's being covered up. The alarming incident over the weekend, I talked about that as well. He puts that at the very end. But I want to point out, there is more stuff. We're going to talk about this tomorrow on a short. Metals are going nuts. They say that Wall Street really knows, what's going to happen before it happens. If you're watching them, then you should be changing your underwear right about now. Because some historic things just happened as far as the metal markets, everything else. It all points to that they know very well something is about to go down. And I've been doing this for 5-6 years, and people have been saying, oh, you've been saying this for years. This has been a war that has been in the making for at least half a decade. I mean, longer than that. But it on paper and with signs everywhere for 6 years. The analogy I use is it takes months, possibly, year to plan a wedding. Think about that. Think about planning a world war. It takes years. And that is exactly what we've been watching the signs of for years. And everybody called us crazy. And you just watch. I bet a lot of the comments saying, oh, it's going to be a nothing burger, are going to age very poorly very soon. Thank your mods over at marfooglenews.com/friends. Let's bring in my co-host/internet brother, Dex James. What is going on, and how are you doing today?
Well, hello, Adam, and hello, Foogle fam. I'm doing just fine, and I would like a keto diet.
Well,
That's
I'm
just
not,
me.
and I'm not. By the way, I'm not hating on keto diet. I just actually read a huge article about it. But I will say this: I have friends that are creators, and one of them particularly spoke to me about how their multi-channel network thing wanted them to do a keto diet, and they were like, "I don't do keto. I don't even know what that is," and they had to. Basically voice this ad for it, and they hated every minute of it.
It's so unnatural if you don't know anything about it, but yeah, totally get it. But yeah. I love my keto diet.
Yeah, you know what? You're on a keto diet?
I've been on a keto diet.
Now I've known a lot of people that are. Okay, so but this guy...
I'm on it until I'm not, and then I go back on it.
My friend...
Then I'm not, and then I go back on it.
My friend who's a creator, he didn't know anything about it and was like, go on a keto diet, support the channel. He didn't like doing it at all. So that's the kind of stuff I have always stayed away from, and we have made sure to pick our products really well. Scenic Adventures, thank you. Says, hello from Michigan. Thanks for what you do. Much appreciated. Scenic Adventures, thank you not only for your support today, but as well a few days ago as well. Thank you on Friday. Mickey the Ironworker, I think I missed you. Actually, I didn't. Thank you. I think I did get to you during that live short. Nearly 70,000 people watched that video over the weekend about that limousine blowing up. I am sticking behind every word. In fact, I made sure I called it almost exactly. You know, they're not saying much about that. They're saying a lot of things. We haven't seen Putin publicly yet. I doubt it's Putin. I doubt it's even anybody. But that Aura Sonat that blew up, it's too strange. You know, some said it was right in front of FSB. I made sure last night, the night before, to say that, you know, it looked like it was a few blocks away. So it's not exactly parked in front or something. But it was parked in front of a nightclub. And if you've watched any of the documentaries on some of the politicians in Russia, they like their techno. They like to go out and party and you know, blow things up, if you get my meaning. So who knows who was there? Maybe it was a defense minister or a financial minister or something that got taken out and they're covering it up. We don't know. We don't even know if it's part of the presidential motorcade, but some say that the plates said that it was part of the presidential motorcade. We don't know. A lot of it's not verified. Russia has said nothing about it. If it wasn't part of the presidential motorcade, then why not just say that wasn't even ours? That's just a really expensive car. I don't know. Doesn't seem right. And that car is an Urus Sonat. Go look them up. They're freaking sweet. More people were focused on how much that car cost than who the heck was in it. And that's what I saw. Media was covering it all weekend, saying, oh, $380,000 car. One said $3 million car destroyed. Who cares about how much the car was? Who the heck was in it? That was my question. But again, media is dumb. Dex, let's talk about Hegseth circulated secret Pentagon memo on preparing for war with China.
Yeah, so the memo, it's called the Interim National Defense Strategic Guidance. It outlines in a broad and sometimes partisan detail the execution of Trump's vision for preparing for and winning a potential war against Beijing and defending the United States from threats in the near abroad, including Greenland and Panama Canal. Some other interesting notes from this memo. So obviously, it's nothing new that the Pentagon considers China a top-pacing threat, but the fact that our president is sort of positioning ourselves away from Europe, and it's clear in this memo. It said it will consider conflict only with Beijing when planning contingencies for major power war, but it wants to leave the threat from Moscow largely attended by the European allies, which goes back to what he said publicly. So it sounds even on the internal side that what they're looking at is, hey, we're not going to spend so much time worrying about how we're going to defend Europe. Europe needs to defend itself. The bigger threat is China. So U.S. is likely to provide substantial, if any support, is unlikely, to provide substantial, if any support to Europe in the case of a Russian military advances. So that's a huge shift. So, but the whole notion of Taiwan and us going and defending them, clearly covered here. The fact that they think that China is the biggest threat, is the area that we should be going after, also clearly mentioned and clearly defined in this memo that went out from Hegseth to the team about getting prepared and getting a plan on how to do that.
There was another part in here. Again, the memo urges NATO allies take on a far greater burden sharing on defense and puts Europe on notice in the event of greater threats from Russia. Hegseth guidance acknowledges that U.S. is unlikely to provide substantial, if any, support to Europe in the case of Russian military advances, noting that Washington intends to push NATO allies to take primary defense of the region. The U.S. will support Europe with nuclear deterrence of Russia, and NATO only count on U.S. forces not required for homeland defense or China deterrence missions. You know what is so crazy about this? I've talked about this a long time, especially since a lot of the different simulations and the drills. Pentagon did many studies on this. They had think tanks. They also had AI programs basically play out what happens in the future. And they showed that we could actually lose to China and Russia if we fought them together, if we fought them both, right? The only way that the U.S. lost a war is if we were fighting on multiple fronts. I've talked about this for so many years. China, they put out stuff in South China Morning Post, and the People's Daily and Shenzhen Daily. All these different papers, they mass covered this. That their experts said this, probably 3 or 4 months before ours, said that the U.S. would win in many scenarios, but the one that they would not win in is if we were fighting and separated into a multi-front war. Now, if you look at the comments here and the actions, it looks like they're taking logical steps towards saying, hey, Europe, you have to handle Russia. We're going to be handling China at the same time. This looks like a multi-front war, a world war. This is literally talking about World War III. As far as we would handle China, and they literally say it. You guys need to take a far greater burden sharing on defense of your country because we're going to be over here handling China deterrence, right? Every one of them, all of them, for them to all agree that that the U.S., the only way we would lose, and that's a good thing, is if we're fighting this multi-front war. Well, what is shaping up? You have Russia, Iran, multi-treaty, military treaty, Russia, North Korea treaty, Russia, China, no limits partners, Russia, Cuba, Russia. I mean, Russia. Everybody's talking and looking over here. Again, our country is basically saying, you guys have to step it up. You guys have money. You have money. You need to spend it and build, and defend. You are having a war. Go spend your money and defend against it. We've got our own problems over here. If you look at the infiltration into our country, if you look at the last 4 years, and you could say whatever you want about how or why it happened, or that we were culturally just trying to be more accepting at the all the stuff that was happening during this, and it was this culture change. Tens and tens and tens of thousands have come into our country. And we know that there is a guaranteed percentage of these that are sleeper cells. We know that there's most likely chunks of actual soldiers that have come across our southern border. And it's very apparent that the government knows that. They now have 2 destroyers down supporting our southern border missions. We have drones flying over Mexico, and we have 10,000 plus troops on our southern border. We're building a Golden Dome missile defense system when we have Canada up top of us and Mexico below, and a big ocean that was usually our geographic safety. Well, that's obviously planning for not having that safety anymore. We also have the acquiring, or the talk about acquiring Greenland. Greenland will be a bigger part in defending against China than it will against anybody else. And that is now clear with new things that are coming out about it. It's a China thing. And I've been saying this for years. Everybody's going, look at this, Russia. China's the head honcho of this whole thing, but China's not even the lead. Xi Jinping is not the king of the world. He's underneath, and in this group of people, they are being picked. That's my opinion. I'm sticking to it, and I guarantee that a lot of people's comments saying that over the years, oh, it's all going to be nothing, they are going to age very poorly. Pissed off at Putin, Trump threatens tariffs on Russian oil if Moscow blocks Ukraine deal. Dex, do you want to talk about this deal? And now it's possible it's shut down.
Yeah, no, he's mad because, of what Putin was saying, and he's sort of sticking up for Zelensky. So he's mad at Russian President Vladimir Putin and will impose secondary tariffs, 25 to 50% on buyers of Russian oil if he feels Moscow is blocking his efforts to end the war. This came out of a conference, not a conference, but he was aboard Air Force One and talking to the press. And a couple other things that came out of this. There was also this notion that he's also pissed off at Zelensky. He said that he feels that Zelensky's trying to back out of signing the critical minerals deal. And he warned him that if he does, he's going to have big problems. He also said he wants to be a member of NATO, but he's never going to be a member of NATO, and he understands that. And then there's also now rumors that Zelensky is allegedly preparing for the selections that they say he needs to do, because he had martial law and never had one of those rounds to see who was going to be the president of the country there. So he asked his team to begin preparing for that for the summertime potentially. So no confirmation that that's actually happening, but at least confirmation that he's talking about it.
And it's so funny they're even talking about that kind of stuff, because if you go back to 2014, most of you in the know understand that the U.S. had a giant part in putting him there in the first place. Putting that guy who wrote and created the popular show that had an average Joe turn into the president of Ukraine. I mean, it's just absolutely nuts. That same guy that did music videos, who is literally an actor in every which way. And we're not talking about, we're literally talking about an actor that played the president very well, and to our knowledge was selected. I mean, it's crazy what's happening right now. So if they're saying that they're about to do a new one, what is coming? Yeah. Everybody talks about Zelensky like he actually has the say in it. Oh, well, Zelensky's doing this because he's trying to stop this or that. He's not making decisions, no more than JB was. He's a walking auto pen. Okay, that's my opinion. Sticking to it. Before we move on, this is a really big deal. Again, we have tried to do as many of these as possible with any of our affiliates. But EMP Shield has probably been the best about answering our call. They are actually a really great company as far as inside and out. But they're doing another giveaway, and the days are counting down. So again, if you want to try to win an EMP Shield, the same device, the same company that's handling agencies like DHS and DOD and the DEMSO team helping protect the Texas grid. If you want to get one of these devices on your vehicles, your trucks, your motorcycles, boats, generators, really important. This device will end up protecting not only that against EMP, but it will also protect you against a Carrington level event. If you've been following the solar events that have happened in the last week, we had that 7.7 in Myanmar. And again, that was right after you had a huge flare, a massive flare, massive coronal hole. Go check out Wages to find out more. He covered all of that. Crazy solar stuff is going on right now. The heartbeat of the earth is something's going on with the heartbeat of the earth. They're covering it. Lots of crazy stuff is happening. But again, solar event, if a huge flare comes right at us, it could knock out our power too. This protects you against that. And the greatest part is they're doing a giveaway. So 5 people will get a EMP Shield of their choice, so whichever device you want, and it will protect you. One lucky winner will get $1,000 credit at the, griddown.com. So you'll have, again, be able to buy solar panels or the Bug Out XP or any of the other things that they have, like the Readout. So go check it out, marfooglenews.com/giveaway. We try to do as many of these as possible. Also, if you do just want to get them and you say, hey, I've been waiting to get this, I would not wait any longer. Again, Black Friday was not as good as this. None of them were as good as this. If you buy 120, 260, 3 MP Shields, you get 120 off. You get $200 off on 4. So if you were trying to team up with friends and get over 100 individually off of on a set, then that would be the way to go. So you might want to talk to friends that also wanted to get this or have been waiting on the fence for it to come down. This is the best deal. Again, that is if you want to go get one, marfooglenews.com/EMP code MARF. Again, that's marfooglenews.com/EMP code MARF. Takes 10 minutes to put in your car, and that means you're getting home to your family to bug in or get out to bug out. It helps support independent media, and it gets you prepared for 2 of the most talked about events happening in the U.S. out there. All right, and then let's talk about Putin. Signs a decree calling up 160,000 Russians, 160,000 troops for service. Dex, big numbers.
Yeah, certainly. So the decree conscription applies to all citizens between the age 18 and 30 and covers a period of April to July. So obviously there's a short time period. They need to wrangle up 160,000 into the military service, which is reported from the news agency Interfax and also published on the government's website for legal announcements. It applies to all citizens at that age group. The official statement said the soldiers, sailors, sergeants, and non-commissioned officers who conscripted military service has expired will be discharged from military service. So they are replacing, it sounds like, but also increasing, I would think. 160,000 is a lot of people.
Yeah, and it also begs the question, is there a big escalation coming, or is this just replacing the ones they lost? Scenic Adventures, thank you again. Sweatnam Ministry, hope all is well. God bless. Jesus is coming soon. Keep looking up. Thank you, Sweatnam. I appreciate that. Dex, go ahead.
How about that artwork in the background?
Yeah, they have some.
Their military ads have always been tough. I'm hoping ours gets tough again. It used to be pretty weak.
Make military recruitment videos great again, I guess. If you know what we're talking about. There have been some pretty goofy recruitment videos that they've done. Actually, CIA has too. CIA had recruitment videos. We showed you one of those. It was hilarious. They focused more on like making sure everybody was different than really focusing on, hey, having the strongest military in the world. So we'll see if that changes. We know the recruitment numbers have just crazy shot up. Yeah, but there's, by the way, if you haven't seen some of the creators that have directly compared their videos to ours, not trying to give credit to them, but their ads basically looked like ours 10 years ago. They're, copying ours, and everybody's like, theirs are so awesome. Well, ours could be too. Let's see here. Sweatnam, thanks again. Whatever Prepper, hey, it doesn't look like you put a comment there, but you hit 11 months as a member. Thank you so much. Meat Puppet 007 just hit 20 months. Shout out to the mods. Isaiah 17:1 soon. Good question, Meat Puppet. And then Edwards, thank you. Of course, Stephen McMahon, All Things Random, Stephen Click, Virginia Olson, and so many more. Thanks. Make sure to drop an M in the chat for your mods. Mods are awesome. Keeping it down in the chat. And of course, if you have questions, most of the mods down there can answer any questions you have. All right. Especially Jammer. Jammer's been very extremely helpful. I appreciate you. Ilea and Bobby Sue and Rip. All right. And then Hegseth says U.S. is making Japan a war-fighting base to deter China. It's pretty clear. I mean, it's on construction paper that they're focusing a lot on China, but yet everybody, when they first got into office, everybody got picked, nobody was talking about China. And at the very least, people were saying, oh, him and Xi get along and all this, and that there will be peace and all of this. They say peace, but just as the hedge said, it's like everything says otherwise. Dex, do you want to talk about this base they're putting in Japan?
He's on his tour, and he called the Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth called Japan on Sunday an indispensable partner in deterring the communist Chinese military aggression. Hegseth said, beginning his talks with them. He said the U.S. is moving fast, as you know, to reestablish deterrence in the region and around the world. So his comments came as assurance, but it also positioning Japan in this, in the light of being more of a forward operational offensive opportunity, not the passive, defense only position that they've had in the past.
Everything we've covered over the years has shown us exactly this. Like, this is something that we knew was coming too. With, of course, the former prime minister getting taken out with the homemade shoddy, which triggered this huge push in his party's want for Japan to be an offensive country. They changed their actual constitution. So after World War II, they basically said, well, we're not going to attack anybody unless they attack us. That all changed. Their constitution has changed. They are now swimming around in the Taiwan Strait, basically pushing right up on China. They are a very formidable foe. I'm glad that this time around they're on our side. Dex, go ahead.
Yeah, he also announced that they're upgrading the current command of the U.S. forces Japan by placing a unified operational commander to function as a joint force headquarters to liaise with Japan's counterpart to serve as a, quote, warfighting headquarters. So they're going to create a warfighting headquarters there, basically to bolster the speed and capability of their troops in joint operations against, China or whoever else, but China is who they're targeting.
Yeah, and it said the U.S. is moving fast, as you know, to reestablish deterrence in this region and around the world. So we'll see what ends up happening with that. And then we have Greenland's new prime minister rejects Trump's latest threat, says we do not belong to anyone else. Well, you kind of do. Technically, I think Denmark would disagree with that. It says newly sworn in Jens Fredrik Nielsen says that Trump says the United States is getting Greenland. Let me be clear, the United States won't get that. I don't know why Fredrik Nielsen sounds like Borat, but he does. I've not seen any videos or heard anything of his real voice, but again, just from now on, that's his voice. The U.S. will not get Greenland. I'm morphing back into it. I'm sorry. 13-year-old me is just coming out. Its new Prime Minister, Jens Fredrik Nielsen, has said in response to Donald Trump's latest statement, President Trump says he's not going to get that. It says, we determine our own future. I don't know why. I can't stop. During an interview with NBC on Saturday, the U.S. president said, we'll get the Greenland. I'm just kidding. Now Trump is also Borat. Yeah, 100%. That actually works as a Borat quote. We'll get the Greenland, yeah, 100%. And argued that, well, there's a good possibility that we could do it without military force. I don't take anything off the table. And since the first day this was talked about, why did the media know right away to to put out that, well, they're not taking military force off the table? I think it's weird. Dex, what do you think about this whole Greenland situation?
Yeah, well, it doesn't seem to end, and I don't know that it's going to end. It sounds like we're willing to take it under any circumstances. I keep going back to it is a prime Arctic piece of real estate. It's a very, very small population, and the country that currently controls it, Denmark, it doesn't really have a lot or wield a lot of power. No offense to anybody from Denmark, but it's not like they're sitting in a position to defend it from Russia or China. Heck, they probably couldn't even defend it against Canada for that matter, but not that the Canadians are going after it. But for those that are really seeking Arctic positioning, which is China, which has zero Arctic positioning, Russia, which has the greatest probably, and of course the U.S., which wants it, and all we have is Alaska. And it'd be nice if we had Canada because that would be a whole chunk of Arctic. But Greenland's a good option too. It's such a good option. We already have a base there, but it's not like we can do much more without either Denmark's permission or even if we did anything because it's a NATO country under Denmark's rule. We would, be limited on our abilities to say put nukes there or anything else. So I can see why it's extremely strategic for us, especially as the ice is receding, the shipping lanes are opening up in those areas, and the investment from Russia and China in the Arctic is significantly larger than we've spent. And then the other thing that we have no clue about is what does it mean for space? We have the force or the base that we have there is a Space Force base. In Pawtucket. So yeah, there's obviously a lot of reasons for us to be in the far northern hemisphere, so to speak, or up near the Arctic as it relates to space. I don't know the technicalities of that, but I'm sure it's got a lot to do with communication, observation, and potentially the Golden Dome.
I was trying to find that Space Force base. We had it on the other day. It's such a crazy looking thing from space because it looks like it's underground and just has a giant wall. So everything's covered in snow. And then it's just like one big horizontal line of just giant wall that you go into to the Arctic shelf. Very crazy base there. And then we have our president here in the United States, Trump, says he is not joking about third presidential term. So much comes to mind when this is brought up. The movie Civil War, right? They had this president that was serving his term. They totally hinted in that movie that was kind of like a President Donald. Now, in that movie, they had a lot of people thought that was like an unbiased movie, but if you actually look at what they were kind of pitting together, the different forces, they did make it like the Donald side of it was the ones that were taking anybody from outside of America and putting them in a ditch somewhere, right? But it's so freaking weird that there's just been so much predictive programming about these kind of things. As far as him, he's not joking about a third presidential term. They said the same thing about Obama, too. Obama actually said a very close quote to this, I believe. Like, oh, yeah, it would be great. He also said, oh, it would also be cool if I could just be an earpiece in the future presidents and I could just sit back and control it without being under scrutiny of cameras and everything. But, of course, they say that Donald on Sunday said he's not joking about seeking a third presidential term, which is barred by the U.S. Constitution, but it's too early to think about doing so. Says, no, I'm not joking. I'm not joking. It's far too early to think about it. Technically, some people believe this is his third term, if you get my drift. Dex, I mean, he specifically says he's not joking, but you would have to change the U.S. Constitution for that to happen. I don't think we would need to. Most people are already putting J.D. Vance as like the next guy if it was to be 8 years in a row of Republicans.
Yeah, I think, they're looking at all different ways. Of course, amending could be one way, but that would require both houses or both parts of the Congress there, the congressional side and the Senate, to vote it unanimously. And it would also then require ratification by the states themselves, a significant number. So for that to happen, it's a big deal to change the Constitution. So, but they're also considering, he says there are methods which could do it, as you know, he said. Now, he didn't really say what those methods are, but others have speculated. There's even people looking into the definition of what a term means and is the language right in the way it was written, and et cetera, et cetera. But before, I can't remember which president it was. Gosh, I should know this, but the one president who served like 4 terms, he died in his 4th term. All before him, every president sort of observed the 2-term example that Washington had set when he bowed out. But then, was it FDR? Somebody came along and he served his 4th term. He perished in the beginning of his 4th term, and then after that, that's when we created the actual law in the Constitution saying only 2 terms.
Hypothetically, if what sucks about that is hypothetically, if we did find a president that the majority liked, both sides, everybody, say we just found somebody that was running our country so well, them limited to 8 years would kind of suck. Because, I mean, the youngest president, I don't know who was the youngest president? Was it Barack? I think Barack was the youngest president. Wasn't he? Was he not? I think he was like 42 or something like that. Whoever the youngest president, I mean...
Roosevelt.
How old was Roosevelt when he took office?
42.
Oh, so I remembered 42 in my mind. So the youngest president being 42, right? You have 40 years or 30 good years that you could run a country, and if you did it well, and everybody agreed, like, hey, this is going well. We're prosperous. The country's doing well. Everybody's doing well. Our kids are doing well. Everything's good. It kind of sucks that there's an 8-year term. I know that a lot of people agree with the statements today about this because 4 years is obviously a very short time to get things done. I mean, it seems like a long time, but it's not. In presidential terms, like dealing with Congress and Senate and everything else, it's almost impossible to get movement going, especially with this 2-party system that we've been locked into for 100+ years. So I think it's another method that would happen too. I think Zelensky's showing us that, right? They didn't select a new president in Zelensky's country because of martial law. I think that our country works the same way. If we were in a major war and it was martial law, would that not also have him stay in? I mean, or does that not work either? Do they do it even if we're in a massive war, we're defending the homeland, martial law is declared? I wonder if that's a thing. Dex, go ahead.
And speaking of the Roosevelts, it was Theodore who was the youngest at 42. It was Franklin, FDR, who was the one that served 3 terms and then went into his 4th and perished.
And they were,
and they're cousins. They are fifth cousins or something like that.
Yep. Well, aren't they all? Not joking, though. They're probably all cousins. All of them. All right, let's move on. And before we move on, make sure to go check out Jace if you haven't. This is one of my favorite medicinal affiliates because this is a very easy and quick appointment with a board-certified doctor on your phone or tablet from the comfort of your couch. And you can get a quick emergency kit that has all of the most commonly prescribed antibiotics. You don't want a disaster to happen and some simple thing like a cut or something like that to get out of hand to the point where you perish because of something that is so absolutely preventable. Again, marfooglenews.com/Jace. This isn't for the end of the world. This isn't for World War III. This is for everyday emergencies. Again, you talk to a board-certified doctor, so again, that's an awesome thing because they have an add-on list. While you're talking to this doctor, you can go, hey, I need an albuterol inhaler in there too. Can you throw some luconazole, or can you throw that stuff that Joe Rogan was taking and CNN made fun of him for in there as well? And they can. So go check out their add-on list. It is, again, limited to certain things, so you'll have to check to make sure that whatever you want is on that list. But there is something else, too, which is the Jace Daily service, where they can actually send you a year of your regular prescription meds. So that way, if tomorrow something happens, the lights go off, boom, you have a year from that next day to have that. And you can always rotate your normal prescription in, so you'll have a year. You'll always have a year. So go over and check it out, marfooglenews.com/Jace. Use code MARF to save money and to help independent media at the same time. Great service. Go check it out, marfooglenews.com/Jace. Especially in the next couple years, it's going to get very, very crazy. I think that if any of this stuff goes down, you're going to see independent media go up against an absolute anthill with red ants that are going to bite and tear the heads off each other. So you get it. I wanted to pop over here real quick. Thank you, Stephen Click. Says it sucks every time I want to give you money. I also have to give my give to commie YouTube. Hey, I have nothing to say. No comment to that. I don't disagree. Let's see here. Let's go over to the chat real quick. I'm going to pop open chat. I do want to say hello to everybody. Let's see. Just a quick chance to remind you that tomorrow you should watch for the short that we're putting out. I think by tomorrow, you will see that there is an extremely good reason to think that something big is happening. Metal markets, everything that's going on is very clear. Wall Street is preparing for a massive event. So we'll talk about that tomorrow. Let's see here. Let's pop out the chat here, and then we're going to talk about Iran urge to strike Diego Garcia. Hey, what's going on, Randy, man? We've got an odd sense of humor. O-H-I-O. Tammy Driver, I can't say exactly what time. I have 4 kids. As you guys know, I'm running this show from my home, and I am a dad and full-time dad, and I have work as well. So normally I can't do the earlier shows, but tomorrow I will be able to. So I will do that short tomorrow. At worst case scenario, if I got called in or something, I would probably do an edited video and then put it out as like a premiere. But I don't know exactly what time, but I'm hoping before like 1 p.m. Pacific, or at least by 2 p.m. Pacific. So if not, I will always put on Twitter or in the community post, or both, probably both. Always follow me over on X. Oh, if you go over to X, again, it's very easy to find. Just type in Marfoogle. The actual @ Marfoogle will go right to my account. So this is the one, and make sure it's the official with the check mark. Again, right there. 52.6. Hopefully you guys can join and hop over there and make that 52.7. All right. And thank you, Sean C., Wiz Jen, and let's get into the next piece of news. All right, Iran urged to strike Diego Garcia. We talked about Diego Garcia. You guys know, right from the beginning when UK was renewing the lease, I thought something's weird with this. Like, what is the angle? I couldn't see it. I really couldn't. I said, hey, I don't know why this is important, but I feel it is. It was so weird. I got this feeling that Diego Garcia was going to be important. Now, somebody go, well, yeah, because it's a very strategic, important place. But I meant like soon. And I said that. If you go back to that video, you can just go back to the date where they first said that UK was going to renew the lease. You can find that show on our website. I knew something was up with this. And now we've got B-2 bombers. This is much before this happened. B-2 bombers are parked there. And Iran and the officials there are saying we need to preemptively strike Diego Garcia. Well, preemptively striking Diego Garcia is the start of a war. So I'm very hopeful that does not happen. Dex, as far as Diego Garcia goes, this is a very strategic place specifically for any war that's in the Middle East.
Well, it's a strategic target right now since we put a third of our B-2 fleet there. We've got, 7 of them there, and I think we only have 20. So that's quite a bit of an investment. But at the same time, that's exactly where we're going to launch from when we attack Iran. And those are the planes we would use probably to do bunker busters or anything that goes after their nuke sites. I don't think we're going to drop nukes on them, but any of the big artillery that can go down deep and potentially take out some of those locations that they have underground, those would be the planes that do it. So they know it's sitting there. So by us putting it there, it's absolutely a forward-facing threat. And I guess the real question is, are they going to wait till we put them in the air, or are they going to strike them first? And that's what their senior Iranian official from the military there said, that their commanders have been asked to target that base. They haven't just been saying, oh, it's just rhetoric, we got to talk about it. They've been asked to figure out how to target it. Didn't say when they were doing it. It just said that the top commanders are being urged to launch preemptive strikes on the island and its base, especially if the threats have become as the threats have become more serious. So now I question if they even have the capability of hitting it, the technology they have. Will they make it past any of our defense systems there? And I'm sure we've got a dome-like system there that can do missile defense and fleets and other things that can take care of it if we got our expensive B-2s there. So
thank you, Ilea. I super appreciate. Thank you for putting my my X account in the actual chat. Appreciate that. Kat says Diego Garcia isn't an island in the Indian Ocean. I'm assuming you're answering somebody's question, so thank you. And then Sergeant Sedenko says, I'm about to preemptively strike my pillow. Good night, Sergeant Sedenko. Jake Malone, is Diego any relation to Jerry Garcia? I don't know, but the Bears are there. The birds are there. The name means thank God, says Darth V. Diego Garcia. I did not know that. And Kirsten A., I guess you answered asked the question. That is so awesome. The Fugel fam is an incredibly helpful community, mind you, of which lots of great people here. If you come in, or if you've ever been afraid to chat, I understand that a lot of people have said that it's kind of cliquey because all these people have been here for a long time. They talk to each other, and then if you pop in new, it might seem like you're out of place. I would highly suggest you guys please try to be welcoming to new names, and make them feel at home. Everybody's dealing with stress. Everybody's dealing with inflation, shrinkflation, everything else, dealing with the possible war on the horizon, dealing with just trying to live life and pay rent. This should be a place that we can all come. We can share our opinions and not be laughed at. A lot of us, of course, have told our friends and family to prepare and do all this, and we're looked at like we're nuts. So I hope that here we don't do that. So thank you, everybody in chat, for being there. Sailor Spirit, hey, thanks. M. St. G, yeah, join us. Jump in on the convo. Yeah. And I understand. I got an email one day. They said, I would love to jump in chat, but half the time they're, talking silly or it's no relation to the show. I get that it does veer off. Some channels are so weird, they'll like kick you out if you're not on subject. Everybody can run their channel like they want to. I can't do that. I couldn't do that. I'm sure some of you would probably like me to do that. But at the same time, I think that it has a personality of its own. Our chat has a lot of great people. Cage Crow, thank you, says, been here since the D-Live days. Remember Bird the Lemons. The D-Live phase shouldn't be over, but Restream is screwed up. It's super stupid because we were streaming on X. We were streaming on X, D-Live, God, the R, Rumble, and YouTube. And it is so messed up. It will not work. We actually contacted Restream, which I didn't know is a Ukrainian company. So it's not exactly a bad thing. We're not, and it was weird. We're talking about UKR or Ukraine. And all of a sudden, like, our service is basically unusable. We escalated it to the top people at that service. And they just basically gave us these instructions like, oh, do this. They wanted us, Dex, tell them what they wanted us to install.
They wanted us to install software on our computer that was not signed by, like Microsoft Developer or anything like that. So it had zero... It would, your firewall and your antivirus would, put up all sorts of warnings over installing this. So we had to completely trust them that the software they were asking us to install, they even called it an alpha version, was going to be safe. And it's like, that's just not good security practice.
So we're only on YouTube right now. That is not our plan. That's not what we wanted. But I'm not going to install some Ukrainian software and do that. That is an alpha that my computer's literally, they warned us. They're like, your computer's going to say this is unsafe and that you should delete it now. And all of your antivirus is going to say, you're in trouble right now. But don't worry, disregard that. We promise it is safe. Sorry, I frankly just don't believe that. But either way, if you have a suggestion on how we can do that some other way, the other thing is there are other ways to do it, but a lot of those cost a lot of money, and we can't afford to do that. So I would love if we could. I would love, especially if we could just go live here and X at least. Rumble had a really great crowd too, and it's very unfortunate. But a lot of things are kind of coming back. Our Facebook group thing that might be coming online. And we're working on callers again. But the caller system that we had, it actually costed money too. That one, we can't really uphold that unless it's really getting a lot of use. So we're figuring that out. We did a vote and a poll several times. You guys the majority voted that you wanted callers back. Now, that doesn't mean we'll go straight back all to caller shows, but I do think that it would be awesome to hear from you guys. We got some of the best tips. We had some of the best information from you guys. And a lot of them were people that just randomly found us and then called in the first day they found us and then gave us some of the best information we ever had. Some of the information was so big, we actually, back when Veritas was a thing, we contacted them. And unless we had video of the thing, we had actual information. But unless we had video, they only basically took video tips, like, secret videos, because we were too afraid to cover it. It was such a big story that I enjoy my life, and I have 4 kids, so I can't put my life in danger. But that came from a call too. So there are some really big benefits to having the callers. But in the meantime, there is a tip line, an anonymous tip line on our website. You can go to marfooglenews.com, and you can actually go to the very top, the 4th bar, I think it is, hot tips, and you can put an anonymous tip. There is an email spot that is not required. The 2 stars are the tip and a screen name that we attribute it to, or say Jeff B. But the email is not required. So you don't even need an email. You don't need to sign up for our alerts, which you can. There's email alerts there. You can sign up for notifications so you always know when we go live. So tomorrow when I do that live stream, you'll know. But those tips, if you want to put your email, we will contact her. If you want a follow-up, we will follow up with you. All right, you guys. Machina Opus, member for 22 months. Kick butt. Thank you. General Sorrow, Linda Hope, thank you. And I think there's about 2.6 thousand in here. Thank you, guys. I appreciate you. Everybody that made it to the show. Thank you, Sean C., Sky Bastards, Linda Hope, Kirsten A., Alfredo Galvarez, LAPD SWAT, salute. Well, salute is true. Dex, thank you so much for your service today. I appreciate you.
Much love. Great job, brother.
It is now time for the shoutro. It's not an outro. It's not a shout-out. It's a shoutro. Mitchell Wintrow says, woohoo! Hey, thank you guys, and have a great day. Be safe. Be prepared. Patriot64, thank you. Thanks, Mons. Totally awesome. You are a top supporter today. Patriot964. Have a great night. Be safe. Be prepared. Marf out. Hey, with the fire on body on the James going in my sky better. With a Jordan rock, a cage, a quote, and a kit up roll, and a death roll, and a death roll, and a door up beat, and a grandma, and beat up papa, bring it down, bring it down back now, no drama. I Leah and the Gemma, go to marfooglenews.com/